Right there we have one of the most affordable vehicles, and it's clearly built to last almost forever. I don't want to spend all my hard-earned dollars buying that vehicle up front only to find out that it has one of the most problematic engines ever known to mankind. I also don't want to learn the service manager's middle name and their fourth kid. I'm going to share a list of 5 of the most affordable vehicles that are guaranteed to run forever because of the engines under the hood. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
The first engine on my list is what's tucked under the hood here, and we bought this vehicle because of that engine. But what we're looking at here is the latest and greatest Toyota Camry. It's a 2023 model year, has all of the latest technology, but it comes equipped with a 4-cylinder engine, 2.5 liters by displacement. Let's take a look under the hood, shall we? This is one of those very engines that Toyota has taken pride in creating efficiency, performance, and of course long-lasting durability, ultimately resulting in an engine that's going to run this vehicle for hundreds of thousands of miles. Now, while there's a lot of haters that actually say this particular engine has some weak points, this particular drivetrain was designed more for efficiency in mind. They used lower tension piston rings in there. They use single row timing chains on this vehicle. But outside of that, every single part of this engine is built for efficiency. All aluminum drivetrain, steel liners, and performance levels at range depending on which generation you buy. We're talking about the 2AR, FSE, FXE, or FE. So basically the 2AR generation is a 2.5 liter straight 4-cylinder engine, and the beauty is there's no turbos. That's the big part of the win with this engine. It comes simple, easy access maintenance, very simple to change filters. Your fluid checks are very simple to look at. High quality fittings like this with crimp hoses instead of snap together plastic hoses you find in a lot of the German manufacturers. Toyota, like this, just uses simple parts that work and last a significant amount of time. This particular engine comes with 203 horsepower and performs quite sprightly. It's good for anywhere from 35 to 40 miles per gallon on the highway. And with a dual VVTi, that's a variable valve timing system attached to this vehicle, it ensures that you're always in the sweet spot. You've got lower end performance as well as a higher end breathing to give it better lungs for the higher runs as you merge onto the freeway. This 2AR generation of 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engines you're finding in this Toyota is so popular that they use it in a whole pile of different vehicles in Toyotas as well as Lexus vehicles. Did you realize almost every Lexus vehicle right now that's a hybrid couples up to a variation of the 2AR 4-cylinder 2.5 liter 4-banger here as we see. We look at vehicles like the Lexus NX 350h, uses a similar drivetrain, the FXE variation of the AR series, as well as the Lexus RX, also in their hybrid form in the lower drivetrain configurations, uses a very similar setup as this. It's a very popular engine that Toyota has used in many vehicles, from their cars, SUVs, as well as their upscale brand Lexus. This Toyota AR series of 4-cylinder 2.5 liter 4-bangers are truly one of the best and made to last a ton of miles. Another engine on the list that's going to last literally forever and cost you virtually nothing to maintain other than maybe the odd timing belt is what you're finding under the hood of one of these. Here we have a beautiful Honda Odyssey, one of the best minivans on the market. Well, they've had a few transmission problems, but the engine is absolutely bulletproof. Another vehicle you can find that beautiful Honda engine in is, of course, the Pilot here by Honda. And a couple of other vehicles, not just in the Acura brand, but in Honda brand. They also have the Honda Ridgeline, which is their small pickup truck, and this car here, which everybody knows. Basically, we're looking at a Honda, and this is an Accord. This is the older generation, which carries that engine, and it's a V6 in this particular model. Laser cut wheels, chrome detail, big sunroof on top, and quite frankly, the Accord has always struck me as a little bit sportier and more attractive than the Camry, which is its direct competition, and largely because of its style. It just has a nicer presence, more swooping lines. It's a good looking vehicle. They have the bigger bar up front here, interesting style of headlights on these vehicles as well. But the engine we're talking about is the J35 engine, and yes, that's a V6, but in the Honda brand like we're looking at here, they didn't go with a conventional 90-degree V6. No, because most Hondas are front wheel drive only, and as a result they turn that engine sideways and you have a transversely mounted engine, and so as a result they have a 60-degree bank. In other words, it's a much tighter V6, shorter connecting rods, and certainly an engine that was designed to be planted more sideways. It also has direct injected, and if you can believe it, it actually still has a timing belt, which is probably one of its drawbacks. It's not a problem, you just have to look after the maintenance on it, but it's one of the most reliable engines that's ever been produced produced, and certainly one of the best in the Honda brand. Yes, it produces anywhere from 250, 280, 300 horsepower, depending on the vehicle it goes in, depending on the state of tune. But it is a wonderful drivetrain, 3.5 liter V6, punchy, performs well. The fuel economy is anywhere from 32 to 38 miles per gallon. And while some people feel that, okay, it's a timing belt and it's only direct injected and it's not like the Lexus or Toyota that has port injected, which feels more advanced. The problem is Toyota and Lexus are going bye-bye to some of those great V6 engines in short order, whereas Acura is going to be the old dog, still featuring some older technology that is tried and true, simple, and very reliable. That's why the J35 3.5 liter V6 Honda engine is clearly one of the most reliable and best engines around. And here's another car that has some of the best engines these days. A lot of people are wondering and ask me the questions, are these reliable? Yes, in fact, they've come a long ways. And as a matter of fact, this brand here, which clearly is a Mazda, as you can see right there, you see the little wings. This Mazda now, the latest generation, the last 5-10 years, have come way up in terms of overall reliability. Sure, they give you some basic headlights with projectors. You get the big grille, which looks very consistent with a lot of the other brands. Of course, this one here is very basic. You get plastic hubcaps, but it's a basic car. But you don't need much more than this just for commuter. Simple little mirror, simple little door handles right here. Absolutely beautiful little unit. Look, as you circle around, beautiful tail lights on this little Mazda 3. You get one little tailpipe there and another one. So even on a base car, it comes out looking stout and sporty looking little vehicle. It's a Skyactiv technology, and that's where things get real. There's a multitude of different drivetrains in some of these Skyactiv G engines. Of course, in some markets, 14:1 compression ratio on the naturally aspirated engines, and the US market's about 13:1. Some of the highest naturally aspirated static compression ratios you'll find in the business. That's right, they use a 4-2-1 system and a much more finite way of managing the fuel injection and exhaust flow, and they manage to prevent knocking with their Skyactiv G technology. It is a wonderful piece, but it's not just a bunch of mumbo jumbo and witchcraft. These 2-liter engines that you find in this 2018 Mazda 3 are ruthlessly reliable. You can also get a turbocharged version, which is 10.5:1 compression ratio, which is also quite reliable. And you can also step up to a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder that's also turbocharged, makes almost 250 horsepower in some of their latest models. And it's extremely reliable, even in turbo format. There's been a few cases of some people complaining about a little bit excess oil consumption in some of the turbo engines, but generally they're very robust. There's very few of them blowing up. They're actually a lot more reliable than a lot of their competition, and that's why Mazda is really coming up the ranks. Have you seen consumers reports lately? Yes, Mazda's doing huge things. They also have a turbocharged version, inline 6, which is now trying to compete with BMW, and if we're being honest, the reliability is that much better. So that engine's consisted of all aluminum, dual overhead cams with VVT, which is, and you know, the gasoline direct injection, direct ignition, ULEV emission standards as well, because it's loved across the globe. And you can find this engine in a whole pile of their different models: CX-30, CX-5, CX-50, CX-60, CX-90, and the list goes on and on. You get the gist. It's that reliable that they decided to use it in almost every single one of their models. They're putting all of their eggs in the same basket because that engine has been doing Mazda extremely well. And as a result, I would have no problems in expecting that vehicle to run 2, 3, maybe even 400,000 miles with the right amount of maintenance. So yes, I'm a big fan of the 2-liter Skyactiv G Mazda drivetrain. Another engine is, of course, naturally built by Honda, and we know small displacement, high revving 4-cylinder engines and naturally aspirated engines, Honda definitely does it best. And of course, Formula One, they can attest to that. But it's not just some of these newer generation Hondas, because certainly the newer generation Civics with the 1.5s and oil fuel dilution issues have had some troubles along the way. What we're talking about is something in an older Civic like this, because in 2001, they came out with an engine called the K20. These engines are some of the most robust, highest performing, and longest lasting engines you'll find in the Honda lifeblood. And of course, it does belong in great little Civics like this. It's amazing you see cars like this still on the road. Yes, they have a basic set of lights, of course, a simple little grille on these vehicles. Look, you get alloy wheels. Look how basic this looks here too. And yes, you get a little sunroof and simple little handles like Honda does it best. And look, even this car here has a little wing on it. Absolutely cool looking wing. And as we notice, this is in fact a Civic. It's in a slightly older generation, but these carry that wonderful K20 engine, which there's so many great features, like roller rockers, reducing resistance, of course, on the camshafts. They have what they call a disaxle engine, which means the bore and the crankshaft are actually out of alignment, as opposed to almost 98% of the engines out there, meaning it gives it a little more leverage and thrust on the power stroke. It's actually a way to lose less of that waste power and deliver more of that power directly to the wheels. So it's great technology. They've got double overhead camshaft engines. They've got VTEC, which is variable valve timing, all aluminum engine. And these engines came in obviously a variety of different Honda Civics. You can get them in the Accords as well as the Acura Integra, which is their hot, sparky little car in the day. These were great engines that were great for a ton of miles. And even if you had to rebuild something after 250,000 miles, it's a small engine, very easy to rebuild, parts are available, and the cost of repairing or servicing these vehicles is next to nothing. 4Runners have gone through a whole barrage of different changes and different issues. Back in 1981, things all started here as the Trekker. That was the model name at the time. And now fast forward many generations, what we're looking at is the 5th generation that is the one that you want, because now the 6th generation is promising to go with these turbocharged engines, and we're not all sure about how Toyota and Lexus durability is with these new turbo engines. So this 5th generation is actually the one with the engine that you definitely want. I mean, you do get the older beefy headlights, very robust. Look at this grille, very tough and aggressive. Of course, very nice, very beefy, very truck-like, very much like the Tacoma, which is very much its smaller brother. You do get alloy wheels, big stepping boards here, and of course lots of great detail. Here we have an SR5, and I test drove one. I reviewed one a few years ago, the Nightshade edition, which gave all your chrome detail like this, all blacked out treatment. Everything was blacked out. It was a gorgeous looking unit. Yes, you can tow some weight with it, and you have a very versatile vertical back lift here, of course, so you can throw a lot of junk in the trunk here, room for 3 in the middle and 2 in the front. It's quite an affordable, fun, and slightly wallowy pickup truck type SUV. Now, the beauty of this vehicle and this chassis in general is it's not a unibody. That means you've got a body plunked on top of a frame, and that makes this ultra reliable. Drives more like a truck. It's not smooth, it's not refined, it drives like a rugged truck off-roader machine, but that's why it lasts forever. It has a 5-speed automatic transmission with this, but it's the engine underneath, the 1GR-FE V6. This is a 4-liter V6 under the hood here that gives you about 270 horsepower, double VVTi, which is their variable valve timing, all aluminum engine, including direct fuel injection as well as multi-port fuel injection to make sure that your intake valves stay clean and don't get carboned up like you're finding with a lot of their competition. For example, like Acura and virtually every other brand out there doesn't take the time to do that, other than maybe Lamborghini. But seriously, this 4-liter V6 wrapped under the hood here is one of those that's guaranteed to run 300, 400, 500,000 miles without a sweat. Yes, does it have a little ticky noise? Is it a little underpowered? Does the vehicle wallow along? Yes, to all of those, check those boxes, but it's going to last literally forever. Do your odd oil changes, do your odd servicing. It'll last it, it'll take it, and it's a tough, robust little unit. So that's one that I would definitely have to test, is going to last forever. And we have a bonus engine, and you knew we wouldn't keep this one out. Now here, this is very similar to the same generation of Toyota Camry that we're looking at here that we featured in the first, the 2.5-liter i4, the AR series. We have another engine that you cannot ever forget about in the Toyota series. They are that reliable. This engine features a 3.5-liter V6. It's also featured in many different vehicles, Camrys, Siennas, as well as many Lexus vehicles like IS350, for example, uses that very same 3.5-liter V6 engine, which features dual fuel injection, port as well as direct fuel injection, which means that the direct gives you the metering and the performance, and the port means that you're washing the intake valves and you never have the carbon fouling like many other direct injected engines have. It puts down a great level of performance with that V6 engine of 3.5-liter displacement. It is spectacular. Anywhere from 280 horsepower up to well over 300 ponies, naturally aspirated format. The only area of weakness in that 3.5-liter V6 engine was the VVTi lines, which are the variable valve timing lines, which means occasionally they had a possibility of rupturing, and if they did, you'd notice a big pool of oil really fast. Very dangerous, but there was an update to fix that, as well as because it's a transversely mounted V6, accessing the back O2 sensor is a bit of a pain, as well as the back spark plugs for maintenance. It's not the simplest to work on, and on top of it, occasionally a water pump would leave a little bit of coolant residual on top of the engine. You might see a little puddle underneath. But water pumps are not uncommon to any vehicle that are liquid cooled. Toyota, Lexus, no different. The only reality is because these vehicles run so long, it's likely that you're bound to run into some of those maintenance type aspects. So what kind of engine are we talking about, and probably one of Toyota's best engines ever? Well, one of their best engines you'll find in many of their vehicles, unfortunately it's going bye-bye very soon. It's the 2GR FE, and it's a V6. And with all of that said, be sure to check out that video. That's some of my biggest compilation of all the most reliable vehicles of virtually every genre: SUVs, cars, sports cars, you name it. You're going to want to see that. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.